This morning when David and I and Linda were standing in here praying, doing our little morning consciousness shift, didn't take much. Listening to the love happening out in the fellowship, in the community hall, amongst us, recognizing, as he says, this light that we acknowledge with our candle is always burning, but it really, inside us, it really is when we notice it. When we notice it. And step into that yes, that is the power of spirit that is always there behind everything. It is everything. There is no thing it isn't. There is nothing but that. And it is all things. It is all the stuff we don't really want to talk about, and it is all the stuff we do want to raise up and acknowledge. And as we know, as we declare that what I give my attention to grows, comes toward me as though it were separate, what I give my attention to, I see more of, I experience more of, and I know this to be true. When I give my attention to the will of Spirit, the truth, that love is all there is, the truth, that peace is at hand all the time, it's not what happens to me that matters, it's how I respond. So I recognize over and over again, every day, all day long, that good comes because I respond to good. I open to good, and I look for good, and I see it. It's the algorithm of the universe. Interesting. So, algorithmically, I welcome in more good, more love, more peace, more light, till I'm blinded by it. Till I can't see anything but that light, that good. And then I radiate. And each of us find that experience, magnetic experience. It's magic. It's the law. We call it the law of attraction, the law of reciprocity, the law. Just call it the law. It happens all the time. So I am grateful that it happens here in this space today. The words that are spoken, the music that lifts us, the love that exists, it's all here because we called it. And I am so grateful. And so it is.
So it is. Yes, she is. So I'm kind of going to do two talks today. One is, to start, we're going to talk a little bit about Easter, okay? Because some of you might know that today's Easter, yes? Okay. But Easter is not about some guy 2,000 years ago. Easter is an archetypal story. If you review a lot of different cultures, there are resurrection stories throughout many, many, many cultures. Yes? And the reason is it's an archetype. So in the Christian story, Jesus represents the archetype of life, love, and light. And have you ever noticed that when you try to be light, love, and light, there are controlling forces both within yourself, those are the worst ones, and outside yourself that try to suppress that? You ever watch little children, they're running around having a fabulous time, and their parents are saying, quiet, quiet, be seen, not heard, and maybe not even seen? Many of us have grown up kind of like that, yes? Okay? But there's this archetype of life and love and light that always exists. And the controlling forces within and outside of us want to control this, and if it doesn't quiet down, kill it. That's the story that we just kind of got through with this past couple days with the Jesus thing, right? Okay? So he's out there teaching love, forgiveness, and all this stuff, and the powers that be, the Roman Empire and the Jewish priests, high priests, the powers that be and the religious said, you're out of here. We can't have you doing all this forgiveness stuff. We have no control. If God is just, when I was a kid growing up in Catholic school, I said, well, if Jesus died for our sins, then it doesn't really matter if we sin anymore or not, because it's already covered, right? So what the heck? I can do whatever I feel like, That the powers that be in my life didn't didn't like that too well. Fortunately, they didn't kill me. But the resurrection story reminds us that we can suppress that life, that capital L life. We can even seemingly snuff it out, but it's always there and will find its full expression no matter what the forces of control do. Yes? If any of you in your minds are relating that to the current political situation of the world, please do so. So the Jesus story of this week recreates the story we annually see in nature. The triumphant entry into Jerusalem is sort of like the beautiful autumn leaves at the start of fall, right? Everything's gorgeous. It's wonderful. Jesus is riding into Jerusalem, and everybody's going, Hosanna in the highest, and they're throwing down their cloaks for him to ride on. And it's the height of his ministerial career at the moment, right? Of course, by the end of it, that same week, he's dead, yes? So the colors of autumn are beautiful, and in a week or two or three, with a little bit of wind, a little bit of rain, it's all those beautiful leaves are just a dead mess on the ground. Anybody from here relate to that? Yeah, some of those are still in my yard, right? And so, and we enter winter, which is symbolized by Holy Saturday yesterday, which is Jesus in the tomb. It's the time where everything gets quiet and lies dormant. And that's a part of life. We have periods, we don't like that. Our Western culture doesn't like periods of dormancy, right? You gotta be doing, active. We try and force our flowers to somehow bloom in the middle of the dead of winter, right? His disciples have all fled to Mexico, Hawaii, Florida, someplace warm, right? That's a joke. Yet, although it seems like life is snuffed out and dead, quietly a little crocus pokes up its head, followed by a daffodil, and then some fruit trees, and pretty soon this capital L life is resurrected in the whole gaudy explosion called spring, which we're in right now, yes? Yes. Maybe if you were driving over here, you noticed there was spring happening all over, right? And Poland everywhere, yes. So the forces of control and repression may have their way for a while. Throughout history, they have their way for a while. But life, capital L life, is always greater, always beyond control. Yes? We gardeners like to have a garden that's free of weeds. Life has other plans, right? And that's what I mean. She said, so do the weeds. And yes, the weeds do. That's part of the life. And so that life is always expressing. We can pave it over, but it will always find a way through the pavement. When we look, we see this day that as a day that acknowledges that life, capital L life, always triumphs, that it says, take away the stone for whatever stone we have in the way of our own aliveness. Yes? Breathe. Take away the stone of fear, of darkness, and control that either I have erected within myself or has been erected around me, but that I still have taken in and adopted for myself. It's nothing next to the power of the life force. Yes? Some of you Star Wars fans may have recognized that phrase. It is the reminder, and apparently not. Okay, never mind. Okay, come on. Darth Vader is in the in the very first of the Star Wars movies is sitting in the Death Star, and they're all proud of it. And he goes, "The power of this technological marvel is nothing next to the power of the Force." And he's right. Yes. So the power of all this control and repression is nothing next to the life force that is always on, always living in us, always expressing. It is the reminder that along our journey, we may encounter times and situations where all seems lost, our hopes devastated, but life, capital L life, is greater. Greater. Always greater. And so that brings us to the second part of the talk, the thing itself, which is talking about this particular teaching, the science of mind, which believes and constantly encourages us to turn towards that life, to turn towards that light, to roll away the stones that have blocked that flow of life within us and step into our full freedom. Do you know that you live in a universe that wants your freedom fully expressed? Do you know that? So we step into our full freedom, which is the intent and direction of the life, of the universe, the creative intelligence and power that we call by so many names. Ernest Holmes put it this way. He says, we believe in God, the living spirit. And when he uses the word God, when I use the word God, it ain't the big guy in the sky, Santa Claus, right? We're clear on that? It's this infinite life force, life energy. It doesn't sit there and go, I like you and I don't like you. It's just this infinite life force, this infinite life energy expressing. So we believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one, indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. That's what we're about. That's the foundation of what we're about, is we believe in that. We don't believe in something over here that says, I like you, I don't like you. We don't believe in something over here that says, you need to suffer to get to me and prove that you're good enough. We don't believe in that stuff at all. Yes, I was going to use a different word. It's important to know who we are and what we're believing and practicing here. Yes? That we are not the church of what's cool now, but practitioners of a well-thought-out synthesis of the best of spiritual traditions, psychology, philosophy, and science applied to human needs and aspirations. We don't sit there and get involved in arguments of how many angels can dance on the head of a pin, right? We say, how can we use this to create lives that work? Yes? Isn't that why you're here? Okay. That's why I'm here. So let's dive into Ernest's thoughts on the thing itself. I brought the Bible, also known as the Science of Mind. Let me start reading here on page, no, I'm just teasing. This was gifted to me by the practitioners, by the way, this leather-bound version on when I was, my installation here as the minister about 8 years ago. And I'm very grateful for that. So, where was I? So Ernest identifies the thing itself and the intent and the direction of the universe as freedom. As freedom of its expression. We are a part of this thing. So it wants its full expression, and we're along for the ride. It's a good ride, by the way. It's good to be along with it. And this is the great call that lives within each of us because we are that. And it pulls us toward the infinite possibilities and potential of the one life that we are living, that we are part of. Our inner voice calls us to greater freedom, greater experience, and greater expression of love, life, all of that. That's what's calling you and me. That's why you and I are sitting here today. Well, I'm standing, but we're all here today. We also need to recognize that the great love of the universe, and it's an infinite love. It's an infinite love. You are immersed in a field of infinite love right here, right now. Yes? Breathe that in. In fact, you aren't just immersed in the field. You are that field embodied. You are love, immersed in love. The great love of the universe must be also, at the same time, though, one with the great law of the universe, which is the law of creativity, that whatever thought, feeling, visualization, vision, image, word that we put out into this infinitely creative medium shows up in form all the time, constantly. Call fabulous, fabulous comes. Call poverty, poverty comes. Call sickness and suffering and all that stuff. What comes? All those things, yes? So the law and the creative, in fact, Buffy said something in the prayer that I'm going to do a little bit of teaching moment about. That we talk about the law of attraction and that our good comes to us. There is no law of attraction. It looks like the law of attraction. Just like it looks like the sun rises in the east, moves across the sky, and sets in the west. But is the sun really moving? No. Well, through the galaxy, yes, but relative. The sun is the same in a relative way, but we're moving. Okay, we've gone from Star Wars to Pink Floyd. Okay, we're good. Breathe. So the good doesn't come to us. The good radiates out from us because we already are that. We're just choosing how it shows up. We're already that. So whatever we put into that infinitely creative medium, the law in the creative medium shows up. And the law in the creative medium doesn't care, doesn't have an agenda for how we use it. It doesn't care. There's an exercise we do in our foundational class where we take a piece of aluminum foil and we shape it into something, right? Does the aluminum foil care what we shape it into? Nope. And then we undo that shape and we do something else with it. Does that aluminum foil care what the new thing is we do with it? Does it sit there and say, no, I was in that form, I'm not going to change? No, it just changes. So this creative medium that we're playing in doesn't have an agenda, it doesn't care, it just follows what we tell it to do, consciously or unconsciously, which is where we get into trouble. So Ernest has a couple of things to say then. This then is the teaching, love and law. As the love of God is perfect, so the law of God is perfect. In other words, the love is always on, the law is always on. We are always immersed in this field of infinite love, and the law is always creating whatever it is that we want to create through it. Always, yes? Okay. And we must understand both. And he goes on to say the study of the science of mind is a study of first cause, spirit, mind, or that invisible essence, that ultimate stuff and intelligence. These are all words for God, by the way, right? For what we call God. Ernest says that the word God should just point us to something ineffable, something bigger. In Zen, there's a lovely saying that says, don't mistake the finger pointing at the moon for the moon. But we get so worshipful and wrapped up in the finger that we forget that it's trying to point us towards the moon. Jesus said, don't call me good. God is the only one that's good. It's the Father within me that does the work. And so we stick, not we, but some people have stuck him up on a pedestal and said, no, we're going to worship you instead. And he's trying to say, no, look at that. Look at that. We're here to say, look at that. Recognize that when I'm looking at myself in the mirror, when I'm looking at each of you, I'm looking at that. So the study of the science of mind is a study of all that stuff, all those names, that invisible essence, that ultimate stuff and intelligence, from which everything comes, the power back of creation, the thing itself, which is the title of this chapter. And so he takes that phrase, the thing itself, to kind of take all the dogma, all the religious background off of the word God, because we have people who get hung up about that, yes? Not you guys, but you know people. Okay? Universal principles are impersonal. In other words, they don't play favorites. There's not, hey, I like this person over here, so I'm going to work this way, and I don't like this person over here, so I'm going to work in a different way. The law of gravity works the same way for all of us, yes? Doesn't matter whether we're rich, poor, tall, short, whatever. The law of electricity works the same way for everybody. It's impersonal. And so that's what we say when the universal principles are impersonal. They don't play favorites. They work alike for all. Now, he talks about that some people seem to get their prayers answered while others do not. And he says it's not because God is playing some favorites, but that some have responded to God more than others. How can I be more open to the infinite nature within my nature? He says prayer is a movement of thought within the mind of the one praying. It isn't affecting God. It's affecting the mind of the one praying. It's a movement of thought within the mind of the one praying along a definite line of meditation that is for a specific purpose. When I do prayer, I'm praying for something to happen, but I'm not praying for somebody out there to send me some good down here or over here. I'm praying to align my thought with the good that already is existing, and I'm just calling it into a particular form. Yes? So as we recognize that we are one with the infinite whole, on the subjective and creative side of life, we expand the good and we can accept and thus experience that we have greater and greater good. And then we have a conscious aspect of our mind, which is our chooser. It's that which chooses. And it chooses based on our expectations, which are often expanded or contracted by our conditioning and our beliefs, yes? Okay? If I say I want more money and my idea of more money is $5, guess what shows up? $5. Or I want more money and I'm not specific and a penny shows up on the ground. Or $300. Yes, I had that experience one time. It chooses how much good we can experience based on our conditioning and our beliefs. So we have that conscious aspect that chooses, and then we have a subjective aspect, all one mind, it's all one mind, just different aspects of the same mind, that creates, sets into motion the choices of our conscious mind. I once had it explained to me a long, long time ago as it's like our conscious mind is like a little child that's leading around this huge, powerful being and telling you what to do. And the being will just say, yeah, yeah. Whatever I tell it to do, it'll say yeah and do it. And figure it out. So each of us is drawing from this infinite life what we think into it, into this medium. So learning how to think is learning how to live. And that's one of the things that we're about in this whole teaching, is learning how to think in a way that's more in alignment with the highest and greatest good. This doesn't involve holding or sending thoughts, but by simply knowing the highest truth we can. Just knowing that truth. When you know what you know, you don't have to sit there and hold on to it. You don't have to send it somewhere to make it so. You just know what you know, and it's so. Right? So knowing that what is known at one point of an infinite oneness is known at all points. So somebody recently in one of our classes asked, do I need to send healing thoughts to somebody? No, you don't. You need to know that that person is whole, perfect, and complete in your mind, because your mind, their mind, and all mind is one mind. Breathe that in. Okay. So there's one mental law in the universe. One mental law in the universe. Where we use it, it becomes individualized by us. So I can use it in my own individual way, you can use it in your individual way, you can use it in your individual way, but it's all one law, one mind being used, yes? So one law. Our thought creates a mold. Think of a mold that holds something of a shape. It creates a mold in the subjective in which the idea is accepted and poured and sets the universal power in motion in accordance with the thought. Whatever mold I'm creating, and that's a wonderful question to ask, what mold am I creating in my life, in this area of my life right now? What is it that I'm asking the universe to show up as? And so we can call fabulous, and the subjective mind says, will manifest fabulous. It finds a way to create fabulous in our life. Because the quality of fabulousness already exists within the infinite mind. Yes? We're just individualizing it for ourselves. So Buffy's version of fabulous, and she likes to say this thing oftentimes, it may be one thing, and my version of fabulous may be something else, and Kent's version of fabulous might be something else, and that's the individualized use, but it's the same one law, working the same way. Got it? One? Okay, good, a couple of people. If you don't, we have a class called the foundational class. We're going to be teaching again. Breathe. I'm going to breathe. So the quality of fabulousness already exists within the infinite. We're just individualizing it with ourselves. The conscious choosing aspect of our mind is superior to the subjective in that it directs it. And it may consciously use it. The key being consciously. If our choosing mind is unconsciously overrun with weeds of old beliefs and patterns of thought, not you guys, but you know people, yes, whose minds are overrun by weeds of old thoughts and patterns, yes, okay, then we're going to unconsciously tell the immense creativity of the universe, of the subjective, to continue to manifest those thoughts in our lives. Right now, for the last week, I have this bird, this robin, that has been banging into my window at its reflection every day, all day, for a week. I had to sit there after a while and sit there and go, this is really irritating. If I catch myself and go, I'm making myself irritated about what this bird is doing, which is a whole different way of viewing it, yes? And once I realize, oh, I'm in control of my irritation level, I can shift that. But it's doing that same thing, and it doesn't recognize it's doing the same thing. I hate to say this, but I've been that bird, and I bet you've been that bird at times, right? We're banging into the reflection, thinking that we're going to change it, doing the same old, over and over, never getting the result we want. So unless we start to consciously tell the subjective mind to do something different, to create what we really want, the subjective will continue to manifest the same thing in our lives. So Ernest says the karmic law is not fate or chance, but cause and effect. It doesn't matter what we put into it, it's cause and effect. And he says it's a taskmaster to the unwise and a servant to the wise. When I don't know how to use it, I'm just banging up against the windows of my life, yes? When I finally wise up, when I finally learn how to use it, and that's what we're doing, we're here to learn how to think, then the universe works and a whole lot better for us. Our lives work a whole lot better when we learn how to think. We don't tell you in this teaching what to think, but we do suggest how to think creatively, how to think consciously, how to notice, oh yeah, my thoughts are creative. And then we also need to learn to trust the universe, and we will be happy, prosperous, and well. So this week I want to invite you to 2 spiritual practices. The first one is choose something from your life that you feel is not working as well as you'd like. Does anybody have something like that? Okay, yeah. Does not work. And ask yourself, since the universe is always showing up as what I choose, what am I really choosing here? And oftentimes it's at the unconscious level. See, if I say I want to have $100,000, but I don't believe I'm worth it, what's going to show up? My not being worth it. Because that's what I believe. It's a deeper belief, it's a deeper thought. Ernest says we don't get what we wish, we get what we become. And so when I become the kind of person who, and I'm just using money just because it's easy and intangible, it can be the same with love, health, anything, creativity. But when I believe and know that I'm worthy of it, it shows up. It has no choice but to. So that's the first thing is ask yourself, since the universe is always showing up, my shortcut is this, since the universe is always saying yes, what did I actually ask it to say yes to that showed up as this mess? Okay? Then the second practice is pick an area which you'd love to have. This is kind of the opposite direction. Pick an area where you'd love to have a greater experience in your life of good and ask, how can I align myself more fully with the divine nature of this? See, any good that you want is already present in potential in the infinite mind, yes? Okay? It's already present. How do I align with that more fully? And then allow that resurrecting energy to work through you. Are you willing to play with those 2 practices this week? Take a look at what's not working and ask yourself, what might I be thinking that's creating that, consciously or unconsciously? And number 2, and here's the simple solution. Whatever's showing up is what you're actually believing in. A wake-up call. And then the second one is, how can I align myself? How can I have greater good? How can I align myself more fully with the greater good that I want? So I want to close with a quote from Ernest that says, let us then approach the science of mind, the science of spiritual psychology, with awe, but not with fear, with truly humble thought, but not with a sense that we are unworthy. Let us approach it believing that as a result of our efforts, we shall derive a great good, a sound understanding of the natural laws of life as they apply to the individual and our relationship to the whole universe. That's what we're here to do, to have better and more fulfilling lives and lives that relate even more fully to the whole universe. So we have an affirmation. It's a little extended one this time. So if you say this with me, I know that by thinking, I can bring into my experience whatever I desire. So, I think correctly, wisely, and become a living embodiment of my thoughts. One more time. I know that by thinking, I can bring into my experience whatever I desire. So I think correctly, wisely, and becoming become a living embodiment of my thoughts. So let us take a moment to move into that space within ourselves, that space where we interact with the divine nature of ourselves, of the universe. Whatever name we want to give it, doesn't matter. Whatever name we give it is too small anyways. But that presence of power, of life, of light, of love, of joy, of peace, of beauty, is everywhere present right here, right now, in through and as me, in through and as every single person in the sound of my voice. Let us take a moment to breathe that in, to be aware that because it is infinite, there is nowhere to be but within it. And so I know that I and each person here is already and always one of that life, that love, that light, that power, that peace, that beauty, and that joy. I know that the universe has no withhold in it. It just expresses and bees itself fully. And we get to join that party. And so I speak my word that each of us uses this teaching, uses this creative law, uses our own inner wisdom to create lives that are lives of joy, of peace, of health, of wholeness, of abundant good. And then we share that, and we are contagious with that, and it spreads out beyond us to others. Not through trying to convince them of anything, but simply by being who we authentically are. I know that we are a blessing and we are blessed. And I'm grateful to know that this is the truth of each and every one of us. And so I release this word spoken, this knowing, into that creative law which simply says yes. It is already so in the infinite mind. This already exists in the infinite mind. We are just aligning with it, and I align myself with this, the truth of this, right here, right now, as fully as I know how by saying, and so it is. Thank you. Happy